and the cultural stuff and everything I found really, really difficult.
Yeah.
Fell into some, huge holes at times, culturally, emotionally, and just like, oh, what the hell is this?
It's the Germany Experience, the podcast about life in Germany as seen through the eyes of outsiders. I'm your host, Sean. Visit the website, thegermanexperience.de, and definitely send me your emails. I love it when you get in touch. It makes my day. Every single mail that I get makes my day. info@thegermanexperience.de. Tell me what you think of the podcast. Tell me your foreigner story in Germany. Tell me anything you want. Just write to me. Write to me. And you may have noticed that I have a new theme song, a new intro. It was done for me by my very good friend, Adrian, and I've linked to his music profile on a music site in the show notes. Go and check him out. I love the new intro. It's very cool. So yeah, hope you like it too. And this week I have got Kim on as a guest, originally from the UK. She discusses her life in Germany as a gay woman, and we go into some of the differences in her experiences between the UK and Germany, and also the importance of finding a gay community in a smaller city. I mean, it's easier in places like Berlin, Munich, and Hamburg probably, but when you get to smaller cities, she's based in Heidelberg, it gets a little more difficult to seek out those kinds of communities. So she gives some advice about that as well. Kim is in the process of launching a new podcast, actually, with another previous guest on the Germany Experience, Susanna. You'll hear her episode was a few episodes ago. Their podcast is called Thriving in Germany, and I've put the link in the show notes. They already have an introductory episode up. The podcast is on Spotify, and it will very soon be on the other major platforms. So probably by the time you listen to this, it'll be up on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts and all the podcasts places. Probably the one that you listen to this podcast one as well. Thriving in Germany is the podcast. Go and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast and give them as warm a welcome to the world of podcasting as you gave me all those many years ago when I started out. And by the way, I'll give you a little insider tip for when you discover a new podcast that you like. Write them and tell them. Especially if a podcast is new. You will not believe how much your words of encouragement will mean. Just write them and tell them. And it doesn't have to be long. You just have to write them. Write them and tell them why you like the podcast and how you found them. How you found them is very useful information for podcasters. So anyway, here's Kim from the UK talking about life in Germany as a gay woman. Kim, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast this week. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing really well. Thank you for inviting me, Sean. It's great to be here.
Yeah, and I'm very excited. So we're going to get into your story. And essentially, what we're going to be talking about is what Germany is like for a gay woman. Yep. What the differences are to what you may have been used to in the past, what your perceptions of it here in Germany are. But before we do that, how did you get to be in Germany? Well, let's start with this. Where are you from, and how did you end up in Germany?
Okay. So I grew up in southwest London, in the UK. And I grew up in a place called Ham, which all my German students kind of quite like because I say ham as in Schinken. So very nice leafy suburb of Richmond. And nobody's heard of Richmond up until Ted Lasso came on the scene. And now
exactly,
that's what Richmond. Yeah,
that's what I was going to say.
I'm from there.
Okay,
but not from the Green. That's too posh.
Right.
I'm from a couple of miles outside. And just standard, I guess, upbringing, careers, worked in HR for many years, then decided I didn't want to sack people any longer and became a dog trainer, self-employed dog trainer. And then I got into basically essential oils, and I met my now wife, Sarah, at an event in London, and swapped numbers, and that was about it. I didn't know gaydar was really going off there at all whatsoever. And then the following April, there was a training event in Croatia, and we, cut long story short, we that was the start of our relationship.
Right.
And so that was in the April, and in the November, I made what some would possibly have said a very rash move to Germany, having had only 1 year of German at school, quite liking the language, but not continuing it because it clashed with other subjects that I wanted to do.
Had you been to Germany before?
Yes, with my
Okay.
parents. We'd done kind of like a Rhine cruise for like 5 or 7 days.
Okay, so like a touristy thing. You never
Yeah,
stayed here. You
yeah.
just knew
No,
enough that you liked it, liked the
no.
place.
Yeah, and I have to say, it had not had any impression on me apart from the fact that the Rhine was very nice, and I remember the Lorelei a bit. It was no more than that. So, I mean, myself and I've been in Germany 7 and a bit years now. And if somebody had said to me 10 years ago, I would be living in Germany with a lady who has 4 children, I would have said, you're mad. It was never, ever, ever on the agenda. And I'm sure that is not something that is a unique story for people coming to Germany. So, yeah, didn't really know the language, very naive when I came across in terms of work opportunities and that kind of thing. But yeah, Sarah was the reason I came across. So I came across for love rather than a job.
Okay, so you're here for love.
Yes.
Where did you say you moved to? Whereabouts in Germany did you say?
Just outside Heidelberg, a little place called Eppelheim, whose claim to fame is that it's the headquarters of Capri Sun.
Okay.
Most people have heard of, even in the States.
Yeah.
So we were there for about 6 months, then moved to Lyman, and now we're in Heidelberg. So,
Okay. Yeah, and Heidelberg is a beautiful area of Germany.
it's lovely, beautiful city, quite international, particularly the area we live in.
So, did you, just in general terms, how was that as a culture shock for you? Did you feel like you just fit in here in Germany, or is it a case
God, no
of
way.
struggling? No?
No way, no way. I mean, I had that wonderful, I came over in the November, so I had a wonderful honeymoon period of, Sarah losing me in Kaufland for three hours because
no.
I was looking at all the booze and I was looking at all the chocolate, and, I was mesmerized by a milker cow, life-size milker cow. And so she got a little bit, so there was that honeymoon period, and we had Christmas markets and stuff. And then I went straight into an intensive German course. And then quite quickly after I'd done sort of A2, got up to A2 level, I realized, or a bit further than that, I think, actually the biggest stress was earning money. And
Right.
As I said, I'd been very naive about coming over. And after a while, after 6 months of not working, which I'd never done in my life, I became an English teacher, and I still am. And I enjoy that. But it's, and the cultural stuff and everything I found really, really difficult.
Yeah.
Fell into some, huge holes at times, culturally, emotionally, and just like, oh, what the hell is this? But I think you do have a roller coaster when you come here. And you have,
You do.
and those troughs and highs kind of just mellow out, and you get to a nice stage, which is how I am now.
Yeah. And I think, like you said, that 6-month period of not working is difficult because you also, at the same time of adjusting to the new culture, trying to get your head around everything, you've also got this case where you feel like you're not contributing. You feel like your own skills are disappearing and slipping away.
Yeah.
And that just adds to the general feeling of panic and, I guess, restlessness and discontent, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. It was, I think, not contributing, because I'd always been the largest contributor to their household when, with previous partners, pretty much. So there was that, but also I think there's an identity thing there of when you meet somebody, what's one of the first questions that if a German person's going to engage you in any kind of small talk, it's what do you do for a living?
Yeah.
It's like, well, I used to be. And that's a bit weird. That's very weird. But it takes real time to kind of get momentum going. But now I'm at the stage where I can actually turn work down if I want to, which is lovely.
That is lovely, and
It
it's
is lovely.
and it's cool to hear. I always love hearing the stories of how difficult it is at the beginning, and then people saying that they're in a good place now, like you just said that after years, Germany has Germany become your home? It's
that's a difficult question. It's home for now. I think we still have a foot in the UK because I own a little place in Cornwall. And so that's the place we go to, because one of the things that we miss apart from home, and Sarah's American, I should say. So, she'd been over in Germany for 30 years. So,
right.
But one thing we miss is the sea. And so we have a place in Cornwall and we can just, take the dogs to the beach and stuff
Wonderful.
like that. So yeah, now, yes, friends are there. But I think I probably have two homes now. I think I'm comfortable with saying I have two homes. I have where I come from and where I live.
Yeah.
And home is sort of where your family is. And, so it's going to be all over the place, I think.
You said earlier on that you got into essential oils as well. Is that still something that you do here in Germany?
Yeah, we do. We do not heavily, I wouldn't say, but natural health has always been something. Actually, since I trained or retrained as a dog trainer, that was a big emphasis on how you dealt with dogs' issues.
Yeah.
One of them was food and just really talking to them in a way they understood actually as well. So actually my dog work got me into natural health,
Right.
ironically. But yeah, no, we still do. And, wherever we look, there's always a bottle of something or the other. Lurking around like peppermint. I know. It's always everywhere. So yeah.
Okay. So what I'm also interested in, and something actually that I realized that I haven't really spoken about on this show before, and I've been doing this for 3 years, over 100 episodes, is actually the experience of gay people, or the experience that they have when they come here. Because of course, like in an experience, you've always got this issue of finding your identity, losing your identity, balancing it up, culture shock, and so on. But also, as a gay woman, you had a pretty sort of an additional layer of that experience. And something that I wanted to ask you is, first of all, what is it like in Germany for a gay woman compared to what you were perhaps used to in the UK? Was there a difference?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Probably it's worth telling a funny story. Before I came over to Germany, I was walking in Heidelberg with Sarah, holding hands and getting stared at. And I was like, my blood started to boil, and I'm thinking, homophobic Germans, three-headed looks, etc. And Sarah just very calmly said, no, it's not because we're holding hands. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, if there's one thing that's come up on this podcast is that Germans love to stare. So it's actually got nothing to do with that. It's just that's what they do.
Absolutely. It's far too impolite to actually ask, perhaps, a question, but to stare, that's different. But anyway, I got it completely wrong. So that was quite funny. And actually, that set the scene for, I guess, the rest of my answer, which is actually it's a lot easier in some respects to be an out woman in Germany.
Right.
I think Germany's culture is very much, your personal life is your personal life. So that's one thing. But also, from Berlin, 1930s, etc., right the way through, Germany or certain parts of Germany have always had that slightly more relaxed view of how you spend your time and who you are and identity. And it's we'll come on to a little bit later, sort of some of the depth, I guess, but I've never felt uncomfortable holding my partner's hand, apart from that first time. And that's not the case in certain parts of the UK, let's face it. I mean, I most recently, before moving over, I was quite close to Brighton. And Brighton is, very relaxed, and they have naked bike brides in the summer, and everything
Right.
goes in Brighton. And I've never felt uncomfortable or unsafe holding Sarah's hand or being just outwardly gay. If I was walking through certain parts of even the southeast, I wouldn't be wearing the t-shirt that I'm wearing at the
Yeah.
moment, for example, and Sarah found this very difficult, having lived in Germany for over 30 years. And then I take her, back home, and I say very quietly, no, we can't hold hands here
Okay.
because, it's not safe. I never felt that in Germany.
Okay.
Yeah, you might get slightly more looks if you're walking through a little dwarf or something.
Yeah.
But it's not, no, that's a big thing.
Yeah.
I think safety. And I think that is, as a woman as well as a gay woman, I mean, the Hauptbahnhof in Heidelberg or anywhere, be it, I don't know, King's Cross, Waterloo or whatever, and not particularly salubrious places
No.
to hang out
Yeah.
at night.
Yeah.
But, during the day, no problem.
Yeah,
No problem.
But that's the case for everyone because I think of Frankfurt
dodgy
Hauptbahnhof.
areas.
Frankfurt Hauptbahnhof. Yeah, it's dodgy. It's dodgy area. A lot of things happening there. So I can see that. But that is it's positive here. I'm trying to think of what it would be like because I live out in the German countryside in a village in Bavaria, and I mean Bavaria is also fairly conservative. And I think it would be the same. I can't speak obviously. I have no idea, but the impression I have is even here, they're conservative, but not necessarily about things like that. I guess, I don't know. But I would say generally in my circle, at least, it would be fairly just like it would be not even be an issue or a thing.
No, absolutely. I mean, I guess where you might have little AFD strongholds.
Yes. Yeah.
That possibly might be an issue. But I was interviewed, we were both interviewed for a podcast years back, and that was sort of a wider expat podcast, which somebody or the lady asked us, why Germany? Well, it was because of Sarah, but also, I would not personally make the move to a country where I couldn't be myself now, because actually I'm too old for that. I'm done with playing the partner's game, of being at work and saying my partner, and then even 5 years later, somebody's asking me about my husband, even if they've been introduced to my partner, it's like, I'm done with that. And so it's really nice. And actually another thing I would say is a positive thing. Gay women that look like me, that have like stereotypically short hair, that's how I like it. That's me. When I go into a public toilet in Germany, I do not have to worry about sticking my chest out and walking in with my head high.
Right.
And still getting the look of, sir, you're in the wrong toilet.
Right.
I've never had that because actually straight German women often look butcher than I do. So, and there's that old thing, you go on holiday to Spain or Greece or whatever, and it's like, is she German? Is she gay? It's either or.
Yeah.
So and you can get bloody good haircuts actually anywhere in Germany if you're.
That's a plus. That's a plus.
That's a big plus. That's a big plus.
So something else you were mentioning at your, for example, with your colleagues mentioning that you're with your partner, or what kind of reactions do you have in Germany with that when you have to talk about your wife?
Yeah, I mean, I tend to just come out with it very, very early on, generally in the first lesson, because to me that's part of who I am. Yeah. And also, I want to actually get past the invisible Sie-Du kind of barrier. We're just chatting. There's no such thing as small talk. It's just we have a conversation. And so I always say my wife, Sarah, and it's like I don't get any reaction at all apart from, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, she's American, is she? Oh, okay. That's probably the only reaction I get.
Yeah, and I think Yeah, and yeah, the
That's
Germans.
nice.
It is nice. The Germans. I get that feeling as well. But I think it comes back to what you were saying about the separation of sort of that professional life and your
Yeah,
private life as well. And
yeah,
yeah, it's not even
yeah,
an issue.
yeah. So German people want to keep, or some German people want to keep that separate,
Yeah,
and certainly initially, and so they respect the fact that, yeah, okay, whatever, doesn't matter. You're not
yeah.
killing anybody. So,
So what about things like finding a community in
yeah,
Germany? So I think that's a common problem for foreigners coming as well.
yeah,
But you're
yeah,
also seeking out people, like-minded people,
yeah,
and sort of a gay community
yeah.
in Germany. Tell me a bit about that kind of aspect in Germany.
Yeah, I think when we first came here, we tried to find the gay community. We made an effort to,
Hmm.
and I have to say, for a university city, Germany, Heidelberg, sorry, has not very much at all, which is a little bit frustrating. I mean, you have to go to Mannheim really, and we've had some, some really nice nights, but not that many, and some slightly bizarre nights of sort of standard dancing where, we turn up and, we think, oh God, oh, well, this would be interesting. And then we turn up 10 minutes late, and of course it's already started and we're lousy dancers. So we get told off by the fierce lesbian dance instructors that, that's the reason why we are so bad on the dance floor. It's because we were 10 minutes late. The fact that we just actually can't dance, and we turned up for that night twice by mistake, and yeah, we've actually never been back to Mannheim to a gay night since. um,
Okay.
so I think the scene where I am, and I can only talk about where I am, I think if you're in Hamburg or if you're in Berlin, I
Yeah.
know it's different.
Yeah.
It's not that easy to find, and I have to say, we do have gay friends. We have found them via the general foreigners community,
Mm.
via Facebook, actually. There's a foreigners group here in Heidelberg on Facebook, and we've found a few friends that way. And actually, our gay guys that we're very close to, we just happened to bump into one of them when we were out for a walk, and he was walking his dog.
Okay.
And, it was like, oh, North American accent. He's from
Okay.
Canada. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. And then the gaydar went off, and then eventually met his partner and everything. And so from them, we've got to know the bear community very well. So we know lots of hairy North American and German bears now, which
Right.
is kind of quite nice. And there is I would say, if I had to do it again and I had a little bit of knowledge and I had to advise anybody,
Yeah.
there are the plus communities, there are plus centres, in inverted commas, groups that are often or generally funded, I believe, by the Stadt. And we have found some really, really nice people through that community where it's not your typical. So in the UK, it would be clubbing, it would be bars, etc. And now that would not suit me because I'm a non-drinker. I gave up alcohol a little while ago, and so that would not be for me. But the plus community is is a little more gentle. I can lead on to the clubbing and the boozing and all that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah.
But we've met some super people through that, and actually we've done some really cool things. We did a gay LGBT self-defense course actually a few months ago, which was
Okay.
super interesting. It was given
Yeah.
by a trans man. And so I think there's an awareness of the community here, and there are resources there, but they take a little bit of finding.
Right.
It's not a case of, I think I said to you a couple of weeks ago, if you go to a new area in the UK or in Wales or Scotland, probably Switchboard would still be a forum. Yeah, it might be online now to find resources, but
Yeah.
that would be an obvious place to find your people
Yeah.
or get an in. I mean, there are a few club nights, but we haven't had to rely on them. I think it's quite tough here if you're single sometimes, and a lot of people rely on the apps and everything, and
Yes,
that's a
that's the other
good
thing
way.
that's the other thing that I guess that the people, the younger people, the people who are dating have, is
Yeah,
also the dating apps. So there is that, and it was interesting, like speaking about gay clubs and everything, that is an option, but it's also not everybody's cup of tea, so to speak, because
no,
not
no,
everybody wants to go out and booze. Like you said,
yeah,
you don't drink alcohol,
yeah,
or maybe even for somebody who's introverted, going out
yeah,
to a club is not their kind of thing. That's not what the thing.
yeah.
So I think that the important thing is to find community in other ways. So what you found, what did you say was the sort of a plus?
They're called. It's certainly in here the plus groups. So
Okay.
I think, yeah, if you Google plus Heidelberg or something, the
Mm,
group will come up, or
okay.
Stuttgart or wherever. So that would be a good place to discover some people, as well as probably social media. And actually, although they're not particularly again active in this area, I think around Frankfurt, which is big city, obviously bigger city than Heidelberg, then something like Meetup, you have the various,
Yeah.
networks, and it's a bit more specific there. But yeah, I think the other thing about the plus group is that it is plus. So you have gay guys, of all sorts of shapes, sizes, etc., which is again nice. Gay women, trans men, trans women. Yeah, really nice. And the other thing that a lot of people, even in Heidelberg, don't know about, which is brilliant, if you're listening to this around December time, on the first Monday, I think it's the second Monday of the Christmas market, it's Pink Monday.
Okay.
And that is LGBTQ plus Christmas market at the Marktplatz in Heidelberg, and it's a scream. It's
Really?
really, really good fun. There's a stage with a drag queen who gets, she has more and more glühweins, and her singing gets worse and worse, and it's very funny. And it's a lot of people I know who have lived in Heidelberg all their life and are straight or are cis, didn't know about it, and
Okay.
it's lovely. It's really
Okay.
nice. So that's good.
That does sound, does sound like a fantastic party, actually.
Well, one year, I think the drag queen will probably drink so many glühweins and fall off the stage, but yeah, and everybody will applaud and pop her back up.
Yeah, so it's that, yeah, that community thing is quite a big thing, is just to
Mm,
getting settled in Germany as well. It has a big part of that, a big part to do with how relaxed and comfortable you
yeah,
feel in the new place.
and I think the other thing is the support mechanism as
Oh yeah,
well, because we've had friends that may have made the move to Germany as a couple and then have not lasted, and
yeah,
then it's kind of, you're dealing with the whole issue with a breakup, as well as trying to find yourself,
yeah,
out on the scene, or wherever you're going to find maybe somebody, if you're looking for somebody, the
yeah.
new person. So that can be difficult. And the whole thing about moving out and just having a supportive community that can kind of say, yeah, I
Yeah.
understand. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
it's so
that's
important.
important.
So important. You mentioned earlier Sarah. Now I don't know if you're
Mm.
permitted to speak about your wife here, but I want.
I think she would be fine with that.
Okay, very good. Because you said she came from North America, but she's
Yep.
been living in Germany for 30 years.
Yep.
So she's fairly well adjusted, to,
Oh,
pretty much a
completely.
German.
Completely. I mean, I would never say that to her face, but
I mean, hopefully she doesn't listen to this interview.
well, she probably will, actually. Well, she better, actually.
Hi,
No,
Sarah.
I mean, hey, Sarah. I mean, she studied German university. She's from Michigan, and she studied German at university, then went to Freiburg to kind of learn the language properly.
Yeah,
And, she's very well integrated into German society, but there is still, you're still a foreigner.
yeah,
And she came out with me. I've been out for years. I came out when I was 26, which is still late, but Sarah came out about 20 years later. So it was, that was different for her because she was coming out in a new relationship, but also as with a new partner who happened to be female as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure we were the talking point of the little town of Eppelheim for many, many years, and to some extent, might still be in some quarters, because I think there was just the two ladies that owned the flower shop. Again, it was welcoming, even though it was different. So Sarah is very well integrated into German society. Language is she speaks with very little accent.
Right.
So yeah, and that again was different for me because yes, I only had that 1 year of German, and I remember the weirdest word like Umleitung, which is actually quite a useful word to know.
Yes, it is.
When you're driving in Germany.
Yes, it is.
But there were these weird words. But the cultural side, you're, apart from, being taught about Christmas or whatever at school, you don't know any of that. And that's why podcasts like yours, Sean, are so helpful to kind of just, this is what you might meet when you come to Germany, because people are so shocked that, for example, you have to pay with cash in a lot of places, so, which thank God, the COVID kind of helped with that, I think.
It did. It took a pandemic to push Germany's digitalization forward. Yeah. But I find it going back now, by the way, Kim, because like all those places that at that time, it is so frustrating. I thought we'd taken a step forward, and then all those places that were saying, yeah, we take credit card, let's pay by card, are back to the old cash systems. I'm like, all right.
Yeah, and we don't do delivery anymore. Sorry about that.
Exactly.
You just have to. And we're closed on a Monday and for 6 weeks during the school holidays. But apart from that, yeah.
Yeah, and occasionally on Thursdays from 2 to 4. Who knows when they're open, actually? Just tell me when you're open.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty insane.
But it's seeing those things and laughing about them rather than your blood boiling and getting really fed up.
Yeah, exactly.
About it, so.
Yeah, seeing them as quirks rather than just like annoying whatever.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize that it was a case of actually coming out as well in Germany.
Not me,
but Sarah,
yes.
yeah, because you've been out since a while ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
So but the thing with me, I haven't felt like I've had to have this big coming out process.
Yeah.
Being in Germany, whereas in the UK there is still, and it might be me, there's still that feeling. What's the reaction going to be?
Yeah.
If I tell this person I have a wife. Yeah. Whereas in Germany, I can't recall a time that I felt that. So yeah, and Sarah is now very active in LGBTQ plus community. I'm learning all the terminology. She's a wordsmith, so if I get my names and she went off to a diversity conference last year in Las Vegas actually for work. Jammy so and so. Been trying to get her to Las Vegas for years, and that's actually really good because there are resources there to kind of encourage companies to look wider. I think from a practical point of view, one of the things that Sarah is struggling with and companies are struggling with at the moment is pronouns.
Oh yeah.
When you are talking about somebody in German, because there's very much the and the in Germany, and there's not an immediate equivalent to they, for example, for somebody's pronoun, and that's still being sort of worked on. So that's an interesting thing because
it is
it's just the way of the language.
Yeah, the way that the German language is built is it's not built, and the Germans call it gendering, gendern.
Yeah.
I think they call it gendern is actually how they pronounce it, and it's this process of figuring out how do we talk about genders, but it gets really, really complicated because then sometimes the fact that because you have the word what's a good example? You have a word and then the extension of innen makes it female, so it's male, and then there's an extension, but then they put. Whether you put an asterisk between the word And then the innen or a colon also matters with what you're communicating.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's a minefield that companies are going through at the moment to try and figure out how
yeah.
can we make this simpler.
Yeah, absolutely. Whereas in English, it's somebody who is non-binary or whatever will refer to themselves as they.
Yes, this they
And it's
they is very
easier.
practical. Yeah,
Yeah,
English is very
exactly.
practical when it comes to that. Exactly.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
that that we have that day, and it's easy to do and it's easy to use. And but German, it's not it's not so
Yeah.
simple.
No, no,
Yeah.
absolutely. But that's the German language, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So yeah, I think right now, I mean, that will be sorted out. Interestingly, somebody was talking about their experiences. Yeah, we know a couple of people who have transitioned in
Hmm.
Germany who
Hmm.
are, well, one is a foreigner and the other one is half German. No, actually, is full American, but grew up in Germany.
Right.
And the experiences have generally been positive once you find the right doctor to help you.
Okay.
So, yeah, and it's interesting because sometimes I think, I'm self employed, so I can't, go to my, I don't know, LGBTQ lunch or whatever, which Sarah can. She works for a big software company who happens to be in Waldorf. And so you can find your people there.
Mm.
Whereas I think if you're self-employed, there's more perhaps a reliance on your partner,
Yeah.
or yeah, it would be really tricky, I think, if I was single and a foreigner in Germany. I would have
Mm.
to really do quite a bit of research, and probably I'd be relying on the apps, I would
Yeah.
say.
So I think let's wrap up, Kim. It's been very
Yep.
interesting chatting to you. But before we do, what would be the biggest advice that you offer for someone coming to Germany? Maybe you already gave it in the course of the discussion, perhaps. But if not, is there some other bit of advice that you could offer people?
I think do your research. I think of two things. One would be do your research. And I think having arrived in Germany wonderfully naive, if I had to redo anything, it would be to do my homework a little bit more.
Mm.
Would that have put me off a bit? I'm not sure. In some respects, it might have done, but at least, I was committed to moving.
Yeah.
So, I think I would have opened my eyes a little bit more, and that's why, pretty much I wrote the course as well.
Mm. Yeah.
But I think from a gay perspective, it's that you are going to feel comfortable here, and don't be scared, and feel confident enough to be yourself, because I don't think you are going to be in fear of your life. Ignore the stares because it's normal, and just you can be yourself here in a very supportive way. And I think it's very easy for foreigners, even if you've been here years and years, to focus on the negative side of
Yes.
Germany. But I think predominantly the story that I'm telling is one that's actually a very positive story. And yeah, just enjoy it. It's
Yeah.
a good place. Good
It is
place.
a good place. It is a
Yeah.
good place, and I love the fact that you're saying just focus on the positive aspects
Yeah.
and the positive side of things. Okay, you told me beforehand that you'd prepared something for
Oh
listeners of the
yes, yes.
podcast.
I've got a little offer. So when I came to Germany, yes, as I say, there was this wonderful emotional and whatever roller coaster, practical roller coaster. And so a little while ago, I did a course. I thought I will do a course for people coming to Germany, or thinking about coming to Germany, or in Germany and struggling a bit. And so I've got an online course that you can do at any time, do at your own pace, etc. And so I'd like to offer a bit of discount,
Yeah.
anybody that might be interested. So 10% discount if you use the discount code Germany XP.
Yes, and I will put it in the
So,
show notes as well. You can have a
cool.
look at with the link
Yep.
to where that is. Will be in
Yep.
the show notes and the
Cool.
code.
Cool.
Thank you.
Cool.
That's very kind of you. I
Oh,
think
and
someone
one
can
other
make use of it.
thing. One
Mhm.
other thing is that in the next few weeks, myself and another foreigner, another South Londoner,
And also previous guest on this podcast, by the way.
Yes, that's true. That's true. So Suzanne and myself will be launching a podcast called Thriving in Germany. We now have a name.
Okay, that's very exciting.
And not taking anything away from you.
Yeah, I was just thinking another rival on the scene that I'm going to have to.
Yeah, but we're kind of like two Brits with a cup of tea, just nattering, slightly different market. And I think the way that your podcast has sort of moved on as well, that you're looking at you're taking a slightly different perspective as well. And there's more than one, if you're a trailblazer, mate.
It's very nice of you to say.
There you go.
Well, the thing I like about it, like I often joke about being competitive and rivals with everyone and so on. But actually, I love the fact that there is because and that's what I love about podcasting in general. Actually, because the thing about podcasts is if you go and have a look, if you're into science fiction movies or science fiction novels or whatever, you go and look. There's dozens of podcasts, and you can listen to any of them, and there will be one that you will just be drawn to because you like the content or you like the angle that they take or whatever. Yeah. And that's the wonderful thing about podcasts is that there's so many options that you can really find something that appeals to you specifically. Absolutely. And maybe it's my podcast, maybe it's another podcast, but I think it's great that people have that choice. So
yeah, absolutely. And I'm great. I love podcasts for just listening to it, be inspired, be educated, and also just chill. Just when I'm walking the dogs and stuff, it's good, and they're invaluable when you've got that long journey to England as well.
I can imagine.
Very, very
and I always tell the new foreigners these days, you don't know how lucky you are. You've got podcasts, you've got YouTube channels, you've got these website portals specifically directed to foreigners in Germany. Back then when I moved, if anything, it was one, and it was a general being a foreigner in a country website. Yeah. Now you've got resources on the internet. You've got forums. You've got discussion places. You've got you kids have got it so good. I can't even tell you.
I know, but perspective is all, isn't it?
It is. Of course it is.
And we're just old. Sure.
Well, hang on now, Kim.
Well, I've got natural highlights. I think you've got a few natural highlights there.
Got natural highlights in my beard, yes.
Absolutely.
Kim, it's fantastic to talk to you as always. Keep me posted on the, what did you call it, Thriving in Germany podcast?
Yeah, we're going to call it Thriving in Germany.
Keep me posted, and I will let people know on this podcast when that launches. And yeah, very cool. Thank you so much for coming and talking with me today.
Wonderful. Thanks, Sean.
Thanks for listening. That's it for this week. Music in this episode by Adrian Bran. Additional music by Ryan Anderson. Until the end. This is the end. Speak to you next week. Auf Wiederhören.